Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Renew Podcast. I am your host, Kristin, Andree, and as always, we are helping you reclaim your business and your life without losing your edge. And with me in the studio today, I have my friend of Urban Trend Studios, Miss Ashley Huggins.
Hello, Kristin. How are you?
I am good. Thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely.
We have another fun topic for you guys because today we're talking about the ladies. We're talking about female stereotypes, friendships, and confidence. And you are the perfect person to have in here because, you know, what's interesting is when we first met, so I know Ashley, she did she's a photographer, obviously with Urban Trend. So she did a photo shoot with my youngest recently. And what struck me about you is you're not just a photographer. Like, you really use this as a platform to help young kids, a lot of girls, I'm going to say girls, help young girls with confidence, which is a big thing.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I really, when I first started, I think I was kind of on the tail end of the millennials still. And they were all, you know, it was kind of the me generation, like the look at me, and realized kind of maybe 5 or so years ago, this whole change in just the demeanor of these girls, what they wanted out of sessions. And it wasn't so much, oh, you know, dress you up and make you look like a model. It was more of, let's give you this self-empowerment session to make you bring out the best in you. And so, yeah, it just kind of went hand in hand with the uprising of Instagram and social media. And, you know, as that rises, confidence seems, self-image seems to fall.
I agree with you because I felt like I had pretty decent self-confidence until like I started that comparison game. And
Exactly.
I'm an adult, so growing up, I don't remember this being an issue. I mean, I don't remember talking about empowerment or confidence or anything like that. So is it from social media? Like, have you seen this? Did you have that problem when you were younger?
I did, but I think it's put under a magnifying glass now because you would only be able to compare yourself to girls in the magazines. You see the girls in the magazines or girls at school.
Right.
But again, those are like everyday girls. But now you've got to deal with filters. You've got to deal with people who maybe are on a higher social scale than you, people who have access to better makeup than you, all of this. And they're like, if you don't look like this, you're boring. Or this is what it's supposed to look like. And that's why I love how all of these influencers are coming out now saying, these are all filters. Yes. None of this is real.
I've seen the trend now. I haven't jumped on this trend. If y'all follow me, you may notice I'm still using the filters. But it is the trend where like they have the filter, then they show what they really look like.
Exactly.
And it's a big difference.
You know
but even the magazines, like growing up, because we had, I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, but we had I remember 17 magazine.
Oh yeah.
And all this. And I actually last weekend just watched this is so bad. Y'all are going to think terrible. I just watched 13 Going on 30.
I actually watched it the other day too.
It was on last week. It's fantastic. But it kind of was that whole thing. It was, if you haven't seen this movie, it's totally like teenage chick flick, which is basically my genre of movies. But it talked about, it let her fast forward to see if she followed those trends and the popular people and all that.
Yeah. And
what
she turned out to be a horrible person.
Awful. But yet we follow them.
Exactly. And like I said, I think there is a switch now, especially with this generation. I've noticed that they are all about real. They don't like fake. Yeah. The whole Kardashian thing is sort of falling away. I know it seems like they're still very prominent.
They're still very prominent. We just did an episode on the Kardashians. I'm not a Kardashian
But I want to say that they're more popular with people the 30-year-olds, than they are with the younger generation, because the younger generation is soaking up the realism and the what do you call it? I can't remember what the name is for the influencer name that they have now, but it's all about actually showing who you are. And even if you are an influencer, let's say, that makes up yourself all the time, you have those photos that say, hey, by the way, this is what I actually look like when I wake up, before all the makeup artists, or before I blow my hair out, or before I apply the filters and stuff.
So how do you get people there? Because I think that's great. I'm very much a what you see is what you get. Now, I'll use a filter all day long, but I'm also in my 50s. And I'm like, hey, I didn't have this when I
But
was
you don't
a
use a
teenager.
filter that makes you look like a completely different person.
If you ask my kids,
Oh,
you
I
may
don't think
think so. No, I mean, you've
Nah.
seen me in person. I mean, I use them, but I don't look that drastically
Or you can use them when
different.
you don't feel like putting makeup on.
Oh, for sure.
That's usually
That's
when I
the
use
running
them.
joke with my friends. They're like, "Well, I don't have any makeup on." I'm like, "I'll fix it in post. It's
Yeah,
fine.
just use a filter.
It's fine." All right. So when you started photography, none of this was happening. None of this social media or anything like that. So you were just
No.
capturing the person.
Yeah, we were making it more of a model experience, kind of going back to the whole magazine.
Yeah.
I believe one of my catchphrases was, "You look like you just stepped off the cover of a magazine."
Yep.
I think we probably even used Vogue because it was all about getting all dolled up and
That was
making
back in the
yourself look
Glamour
beautiful.
Shots days.
That was on the. I actually worked for Glamour Shots for a hot minute.
Did you really?
Yes,
I
yes.
have some pretty cool. They're horrible. Actually, my kids found some of my old Glamour Shots. This was like the late 80s. I don't know why they were still in my memories box, and they found them
Yeah.
and saved one of them as that's their
That's
screensaver
amazing.
for my contact photo.
They weren't quite as bad when
Oh,
I
they were
worked there,
horrible
but
when
they
I was
were
there.
very, same poses, in and out, boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom.
But
Here,
they
let
like
me-
to make you up and make you look like different than you normally look.
Right. And I think that was what my focus was in the beginning, was not so much to look different than you are, but to glam it up. So
Right.
we always encourage girls, hey, let's do heavy eyes or really bold lips, and we're going to do these really cool outfits. And I know even some photographers have style closets.
Yes.
And they let them use the pieces and stuff. But it got to the point where I really just wanted to show off who they were. And the makeup is more of either an enhancement of what they want. You just bringing out their best selfies. It's
Right.
smoothing the skin out a little
Yeah.
bit. Just making everything, kind of putting like the little bow on top. But some girls are like, no, I want to really make it. They really want to express themselves through the makeup. So we do the really cool bold eyes, or they have a really awesome sense of style. And so the makeup goes with the style, and they'll do their hair up in really cool different ways. And but that's the point, is what do you want your session to look like? What reflects your personality? I love wearing makeup. It makes me feel good.
Yep.
It makes me feel powerful. It just makes me feel very feminine. But if you don't want that, you want more of a natural look, all right, let's do that then. Let's go do that natural look.
I like that you're pulling in what they are. So let's
Yeah.
talk about this for a minute, because we said we were going to talk about stereotypes and friendships and confidence is a big thing. But I think a lot of that comes from like you said, the stereotypes. We're trying to fit into something that we think we're supposed to be, or that we've been told we were supposed to be.
Right.
And I hate, we all hated that growing up. I was I was a child of the 70s, so it was a seen and not heard type of generation.
Mm-hmm.
And now I feel like the pendulum has swung so far the other way that the younger generation's still trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah.
And they're definitely not, they're heard and seen, but I think they're to me, it just seems like they're fighting to figure it out.
That's
like
a good
there's
way
so
to put
many
it.
different, I mean, stereotypes is a little bit of it, but there's so many different things that they're just fighting, like almost like trying to be too much of something to kind of settle in on what they are.
Yeah,
Like, what are you seeing with the teens out there these days?
I think, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. They're figuring out who they are, especially in these formative years of teens. It's like that through generations. But I think that they're realizing, as a society, we're coming to this point where you can be who you feel on the inside. If you are a woman who doesn't want to wear makeup and be girly, that's okay.
Yeah,
They realize
Amy-
that's acceptable. When as before, it's like, if you go outside without makeup on, what are you doing?
Yeah,
What
and
are you
Amy,
doing?
who's watching the live stream, just commented and said her youngest refused to put makeup on for the senior pics and wouldn't let her play for the cleanup filter. I always had to play for the cleanup filter too. Did you know that when you buy school pictures, you would know this. You have kids. You can
But I
pay
have
to-
boys.
You have boys. Yes, they have. I think they call it the blemish filter, but you can
we do
smooth
need
that.
the
Even
blemish
in the
filter.
school pictures, when we had school pictures, I looked like a hot mess. Like
Yeah.
if it was happening at the end of the day,
No.
no telling what those pictures. But now they do all kind of stuff.
Well, and I tell my girls too, I said, look, I am not going to airbrush you to the point you don't look like you're not supposed to. The only things that I really like to airbrush are either bad lighting or posing, which
Okay.
is my fault, or something that is temporary. So if you have a blemish or a breakout that day, I will take care of it. It will be like it never happened, because
Okay.
it's not something that makes them who they are. You know,
Right.
that blemish is not who they are. But if they have a birthmark or a mole or something like that, I really stress, hey, if you want it taken out, okay. But that's who you are. That's who
Right.
makes you who people. Skin is not perfect.
Yeah.
And so I really try to emphasize, if it's temporary, it can get removed. If it's something that is there all the time, let's keep it in.
So let's talk about this for a bit, because I had the opportunity to work with you with my youngest,
Mhm.
and we don't talk about this as much. And like we'll say, I love that you're saying, if this is you, we've had comments. Laura's saying we always tell people follow your heart, but the world says no, not that way.
Right.
Which is true. So, but you use your platform as a photographer to have these conversations. Because I know now my child may have backfired a little bit on you, because I warned you before we did this. Because she's like, you had explained to me, I talked to the girls and the guys too, because I know you work with guys as well. But you talked to them during the session about confidence and standing out their natural beauty and letting things come out. And I think that's phenomenal, because I think so many kids don't hear that. And they don't get to see it. So I think to have an adult go, oh, look at this. This is beautiful.
Well, they hear it from their mom,
Right.
and everyone's mom thinks their
Right.
child is beautiful.
Yes.
So to hear it from your peers is a great thing as well. But to hear it from another adult female,
Yep.
I think has more weight than we put on it.
Yes.
And I didn't put a whole bunch of stock in it either until I started doing it, and I would get moms kind of pulling me aside and going, I've never seen her this confident before. She doesn't pose for photos. She's not normally this comfortable in front of the camera.
But I love that you're able to pull that out. Now, with my child, when we did our session, I did warn Ashley ahead of time. I said, confident, because she was telling me this, and I was like, this is fantastic. I love that you do that. And I said, when it comes to this particular child of mine, confidence is not her issue. Like and it was not.
She needs to come with me and be my hype woman.
She's a hype woman, because Ashley, you take a picture and the lighting was great, and you're like, look at this photo, look how pretty you are. And I would assume most normal children would say, oh, thank you, I'm not sure. And
or they
get
gasp,
excited.
oh my gosh, I can't believe that's
Right.
me.
My child, of course, goes, Ashley's like, look how good you look. She's like, I know, right? I'm pretty much gorgeous. And I'm like, this went on for hours of this session.
It was a really fun challenge for me.
It was. It's there's certain people we need to bring the confidence down a little bit. That may have been my child. But the pictures were phenomenal, because she was relaxed and having fun. But even her, who I think has a lot of confidence, outwardly has a lot of confidence, has a lot still of the self-doubt, because she's one of three. I have three girls. Mm-hmm. So she's one of three girls. She's seen her sisters, pose and wear makeup and all this stuff. And, she's always like, oh, they're, so pretty, and they're this and they're that. She does tell one of them that she's the ugly sister.
Well, that's more of a sibling thing.
That's more of a sibling thing. But it definitely took a new, it took it to a different level. Like, it was really cool to see somebody else say that, because I've always told her that, and she kind of dismisses it. I think when your mom tells you something, it's like, whatever.
Always.
Like, you're just the mom.
Always. But it's funny, because we emulate what we see growing up, even if it's unspoken.
Right.
One of those, one of the big things that especially young girls will follow kind of how their mom views themselves.
Yes.
So if you have a
My
mom,
girls are screwed.
Yeah.
Like, for serious.
I know, if I had girls, they would be too.
They are. Because, they've told me that, because I'm harder on me than I'm on them, for sure. And they're like, oh.
Well, and even with
how
boys,
many of us have talked about dieting our entire life?
Exactly. I commented one time about wanting to lose my belly, or saying something in passing that you don't even really think about, that your kids are even listening to. And a couple of weeks later, my son actually started working out and refused dessert. My younger one, I think he was like 11 at the time. He goes, well, I don't really like this belly. I need to get rid of this belly. 11-year-old boy. And he's like, oh, I probably need to start running. I need to get rid of this belly. I'm like, oh my gosh.
So what are you
saying?
What do you say to girls? As we think, I think a lot of it, we're going to talk about friendships in a minute, but I think a lot of it has to do with the people you surround yourself with. Because my girls heard me, I made all the mistakes. I've told them I will pay for therapy when they're older, but they are now all along, because I did all the things. Because when I grew up, I was being told, you need to lose some weight, you need to do, and I was not big by any stretch of the imagination, but whether it was sports or something like that, I was always told that I needed to knock off a few pounds.
Oh, see, mine was the opposite. I was always tall, skinny, string. I got made fun of. It's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, right?
It's like you can't, whatever you have, you want something different.
Yeah. Well, whatever you have, it's not right.
Right.
It's not correct. So, I was always too skinny. And I remember even my mom would say, oh, gosh, I would kill to be that skinny. And, now I sort of have the opposite issue. Of course, I'm not big by any means. Not that that would matter, but I've gotten lazy. So it's like, okay, I want to go and tighten it up again. Right. But I always make sure I've got an 11-year-old niece who I want to be very careful about what I say to her.
Right.
And I always make sure that I say things like, I really want to be stronger. I want to strengthen everything up. I want to tone everything up. Not, I want to lose weight. Oh, I'm fat.
Yeah,
it's those key words.
It is the key words, and it's. But let's talk about this for a minute. And this may be a little bit controversial, but I'm gonna say it anyway. So I know some of you guys listening and commenting on the live stream. I know a lot of you guys. I don't know some of you guys. So we'll see how this lands.
Ooh.
I agree with what we're saying is that we need to be confident in our own skin. We need to make sure that the words we use are positive words and encourage people. Mm-hmm. However, I do see a trend where the pendulum has swung so far that it's almost like, well, it's just me. And a lot of people are using it as an excuse to just let themselves just go.
Agree.
I think it's crazy because, people will like, I get the whole body positivity, and I agree with that, and I need that as an adult in my 50s as much as anybody else. Mm-hmm. But there is a health component to it too, that's where I'm like, there's cautious because I'm like, yes, I want you to be yourself, and I want you to embrace your curves, but I do want you to be healthy. When I gain weight and I have my little pooch, which is. My daughter says, I said something about a 6-pack. She goes, I've got a 6-pack of pudding cups. Because they love that they're thicker, and thick is big right now.
Right.
Like that's the thing, is to be thick. Well, thick is okay. Obese and really heavy is not, because I just don't think it's healthy. And I feel like that's where I don't know where the line is.
Well, I think the main word there is health. And health looks different on a lot of different people, or a lot of people. You always want to make sure that you are encouraging the body type that they have. Yes. There are many different body types. I was thin, and I think in my 20s, I was very thin, but I wasn't healthy. I was eating whatever I wanted. Yeah. I didn't have a whole lot of muscle mass. It was just that I was thin. I didn't have a lot of skin, didn't have a lot of fat underneath that skin. So I think when you are talking to young girls about this, it's not so much do whatever you want, eat whatever you want. You're like, yes, eat the cake, of course.
For sure.
But I wouldn't live a lifestyle that isn't focused on nourishing your body, taking care of your body, moving your body. That was the thing that I needed ingrained in me for the last 5 years.
And that's the healthy habits, because Michelle just said that. Mm-hmm. She said there's a bold line between body positivity and being unhealthy, and obesity is not body positivity. I agree. And I'm glad I'm not there. All right. So thank you guys for coming to my defense here, because I agree. And Amy just said this, doctors are afraid to tell people they need to lose weight because it's in there. And I agree with that. There's a confidence. We're trying to build confidence, but at the same time, let them take care of themselves. And I think we need, part of having confidence and having the right female role models and relationships is when people tell you that they love you enough to tell you, all right, hey, we need to rein this back in a little. Like my brother calls it intentional movement, because I get lazy. I'm not an exercise person. I've said this a ton before. I don't like working out. I absolutely hate working out. There needs to be a social component to it for me to be able to do it. And years ago when I was competing in martial arts, that was great. But I got to hit and kick people. That was fantastic. It was like
you
therapy.
Find what works for you.
You find what works. And then I did 75 hard last year. I was walking twice a day and working out twice a day. And it was only for 75 days. And it was a lot, but I was in phenomenal shape. So I know for me, any challenges I have personally with how I look or feel, it's 100% a result of the choices I make.
Well, 100%. And a lot of people
and I know some people have some genetic components and things like that predispose them to other body types and things of that nature. But most of the time, 90% of the time, it's the choices we make.
Well, and it is choices we make, but also the body type. You can have people who work out all day long, can eat whatever they want and still can't lose weight per se. They have the curves. That's just how they're built. And I think that's what we need to embrace. Look at Serena Williams.
Yeah.
Serena Williams, gosh,
Works
who
out
knows
all
how
the
much
time.
she works out. And she still is curvaceous. She's a bigger woman.
But I wouldn't call her obese or anything.
No,
Like,
absolutely
curvy,
not.
I think
but
curvy
she's
is
not
great.
pencil thin. And I think
Right.
that's what we need to get away from is you need to be pencil thin. If you work out and eat right, you're going to be skinny as Kate Moss.
Yes.
But then on the other end of that, you also need to say, but that is also okay if that is your natural state. I have a sister who she has the opposite problem. She tries to gain weight because, like you said, one the
I've
big
got
booty
some
you
I'll
want.
give you.
Yeah, exactly. That's what people tell her. They're
Right.
like, "Oh, why would you be upset about being skinny?" She's,
I've had friends like that
if the
too,
grass
that they
is
can't
always
gain.
greener, right?
But I think there's, we just had a comment, fuller figure, society's promoting fuller figures, but are presenting obese bodies. I agree, because I think there's nothing wrong with curves. There's nothing wrong with embracing your body. I'm just saying, if you want to be confident, let's use it as a way to be healthy, as opposed to just worrying about like the aesthetics of it.
Well, and
if
I
you
think
will.
when you feel good on the inside, it's going to show on the outside.
Right.
So if you are nourishing your body with good food, you're drinking plenty of water, you're walking, it's just going to naturally happen that your body is going to be at its best. Whatever that looks like is what it looks like.
So how do you do this with your young girls? Like with the girls that you have the opportunity to work with? How do we have? I mean, because I can have these conversations with my kids, and I will tell you with my older ones, because they're a little bit older, a lot bit mouthier, they push back. They're like, well, it's okay. People can be who they want. And I'm like, as long as you're healthy. Now, fortunately, my girls are all very healthy. And they make pretty good choices about, food and beverage. Only one of them's old enough to drink. So
I feel
she
like-
doesn't drink that much.
I feel like a lot of times it happens naturally, but then they also start with my oldest. He actually started not feeling good about himself.
Okay.
Again, very thin kid, but he wanted to build muscle. He saw people around him, and they were strong. They could do more things than him, and he also used to be an athlete, but he decided that he wanted to build some muscle. And then he kind of stopped doing that. He got a little bit lazy, and he noticed that his tummy was getting a little big. So he's like, okay, I got to stop eating all the junk all the time. I've got to start drinking my water. I've got to get back on my workouts. So I think the biggest thing for us as parents is just leading by example, not having a bunch of junk in the house. I do have the snack foods,